Hello. I know we have been away from LinkedIn Live on all my social media channels for a long time. I was in India, guys. So sorry I was away from LinkedIn Live for a long time. But now I'm back. We are going to have some fun. We are going to talk about um, business. We are going to talk about entrepreneurship. We are going to talk about um, healthcare startups. We will be talking about fun things, what is happening in healthcare field. I will also introduce you to our guests during my show. Well, good thing is that I am trying to find time other than Fridays. So today is a Thursday, and I think in Florida it's already the cold start happening. So it's a little bit cold outside. Weather is good. Um, I hope you're able to hear me today. Um, so about my trip to India, it was a fantastic trip. I went to Jaipur, which is in near Delhi. We have about 200 employees there. I went there to see them. I went there um, to find out what they are doing right, what they are doing wrong, and we found a lot of new stuff. We got a lot of new clients. So everything is kind of very lot of excitement at Practice Forces and at my site. So well, today I have picked a very important topic for you, and the topic is. I have had a situation where some of my, colleagues always come to me for advice, and then one of our friends, he came to advise, and he said, it is very difficult sometimes because when you are a subcontractor or a vendor, or you are a employee, and if you are doing your best to please your customer, to please your client for a long period of time, um, how is it possible that at some point that client thinks that their business goals or your business goal does not match, or sometimes it feels that what you're doing for that client is not enough, and what you realize that during this process, the key thing or key factor is people who are working between the process and yourself, because they play a very active role in understanding or defining what should be the process. So again, those who are on LinkedIn Live, today we are going to discuss a very important subject between as a subcontractor, because you are a company, you're doing your best, you have accumulated a lot of wisdom over a period of years, and you want to give your best to the client. But they have their own process, and nobody is right and wrong here. They're not wrong either. They are trying to find a match between you and their employees and see how you can be an extended help or extension of their employees. And that's where the biggest biggest bottleneck occurs sometimes. So we'll discuss this point very minutely. I have a very important friend who will be joining me during this process of discussing this. But I really want to understand from you, if anybody who is online and wants to understand or has a question, and I have a question for you. What is the clear-cut difference between a subcontractor and an employee, other than the legal difference that, an employee is your, of course, on your payroll, instead of subcontractor is at a different level. So he might be on a contingency basis, or you might be paying a hourly fee to him, or something else, whatever may be the arrangement. But it is very important to understand from a role description perspective, from a client expectation perspective, that you understand what's the difference between a vendor, a subcontractor, and an employee. So from healthcare perspective, because most of our clients are into physicians and medical groups, or it is clear cut that sometimes you may not be able to find a qualified employee for something like for medical billing, practice management, credentialing. There are different things, but at the same times you may be able to find a vendor like a medical billing company or coding company or a credentialing company or an IT services, and then you expect them to work with their best of their knowledge and wisdom. But at some point, if an employee comes in between and he kind of bottlenecking the process, then it becomes very difficult for a vendor or for a subcontractor to do his job. And at that moment, you have to decide whether your business goals match with the client's business goals or not. Because ultimately, as a subcontractor, your goal should be to do the best justice with the client's process so that you can become a partner. You can become a partner in the client's success rather than an individual success. And that's where the thin line is. So with this, I'm going to talk to Victoria. She is trying to, I think, join. Let me see if she has already joined or not. It looks like she has not joined yet, but I'm going to ask you a question. What exactly would you do if you would be in that situation? So one thing as an employee for sure that you're going to do your job everyday basis. You're going to see what's coming on your way. But at the same time, as a subcontractor or as a expert, as a subject matter expert, you are going to do your best to achieve the goals of your client. And I'll give you an example. So let's say one of your clients wants to do, say, hey, my goal is to have collection for about $2 million, $3 million a month. Now you give them a list of 3, 4 tasks that, okay, I expect these 4 things from your employees to perform in order to achieve that goal. Now you have clearly communicated that to the client. You tell them that, hey, this is what my expectation as a subject matter expert. This is what I think as a consultant. It will help you to grow your company. He agrees on it. You have an agreement. For some time it happens, but at some point, some of his client leaves, some of his employees leave, and a new employee joins. And whoever joins may not have a exact kind of he's not on the same level which you need in order to get the things implemented or executed at that level. Now the problem starts happening. That employee expects the process in his own way, and you expect the process the way you think is the best way, and that's where the trouble starts. So think about those kind of situation, write it back to me, and I have a fantastic, I have a good news. I have a Victoria Williams. We have been talking about it. Victoria, are you there? You have to unmute yourself, Victoria. Can you unmute yourself, Victoria?
We go. Sorry, I had
Hey,
to
we got it.
yes, we got it.
Fantastic. Finally, huh? At some point, I was so nervous. What are we going to? I'm going to say for first 10 minutes if you don't show up. But I'm glad you show up. Well, you disappear again. So, Victoria, if you can hear me, I have explained that the challenges sometimes as a business, as a consultant, or as an advisory group you face from your clients is that you are supposed to work or act in the best interest of your business you are catering to or your client. But at some point, you have to just unmute yourself. So there is a mic, little mic on the. Here you go. Can you? We can hear you. We can see you.
There it goes. Okay, sorry, you froze up for a second there, so I just caught that tail end.
Okay, let me
Love
explain you
technology.
again what we are talking about here. So for past 10 minutes, I've been talking to the audience and I told them that, sometimes it just happens. You have a client, you have been serving them for a long time, but then suddenly something changes in the process. Maybe people, it's mostly people changes in the process, and you try to find the same repo or the same system what you used to have with the previous set of people. Now, it is not necessarily always 100% guaranteed the new people are going to have the same compatibility what you have with the previous set of people. So you will always have some kind of challenges in communicating the same process to the new set of people, making them understand this is how the system should work. And as a subject matter expert, since you are a subcontractor, you are not an employee, right? We discussed this yesterday,
Correct.
how
Correct.
important it is for a client to understand that what is going to be your role as a subcontractor. So I have spoken enough. I expect you to share some wisdom here. I know you guys have been into credentialing, into billing, and you have been doing. We met at HBMA in St. Louis. We had a great time. We had a great fun. So we got a little compatibility right there. So
Little
I want you
compatibility
to
right
speak about it and then say what's your experience working with the clients, and especially in the healthcare field when a client at some moment feels that their business goals is different than what you are trying to solve, or there is somebody, an individual, who thinks that the business goal of a company is different than the service offering you have. What do you have to say?
there. Absolutely. So we all know that change can be scary. And a lot of times, whenever new staff comes on, either they're a little too stuck in the old ways, and you're trying to present new and better ways, or they want to come change everything and don't fix something that's not broken.
Right.
So what I have found is typically these type of things, um, just we need to present a conversation to the actual client themselves. uh, Typically, we'll work one-on-one with whoever our point of contact is, right? So in our industry, that's typically like an office manager, or maybe they have a coordinator.
Oh,
These are what we are thinking your goals are. Historically, this is what your goal has been. Have those changed? Because if their goals have changed and they didn't tell us, that happens. And so things may need to change. However, if their goals are still the same and we're still on track to meet those goals, then at that point we can present to them, this is what we've been doing. This is the progress that we've made. We don't want to slow that down by making changes. Or we say, great, you have new goals. So these things now make sense. Let's implement them into an actual process.
how do you communicate at that moment when you realize that um, things which was working earlier is not working anymore, and the new employee is not ready to listen what you are saying. And
Right.
sometimes what happens, I'll give you an example. Let's say in a medical office there is a biller. There's a lower level, lower tier of people working, and then there is a CFO or somebody joins at a senior level. Now you expect that senior person or a CFO or a director or CM, he's supposed to understand billing functions.
Right. Supposed to is the key word there,
Supposed
right?
to. And what happens if he doesn't? And then he might be a good friend of a doctor. He might be a successful CFO somewhere else. Oh, I love. Introduce him to us. Introduce your friend.
My dog is trying to join. He jumped up here. Let me kick him out really
No,
fast.
that's fine. That's fine. Let him have fun. We will have fun. That's okay.
He
As long
hears you
as he doesn't
talking and
bother
he's
you.
very excited to anytime he thinks he has a visitor. He hasn't quite figured out virtual world yet,
Uh-huh.
and that you're not actually here to spend time with him.
That's
So
fine. We'll have a great time with him. So that's the
that's my
that's the challenge.
office mascot.
So let me finish my thought what I was saying with that. So what happens now, that person who's new, for him, his best bet would be either to listen the employees which he has, or he listens the advice of a subject matter expert.
Absolutely. So in those instances, again, we typically start our conversations with our point of contact, right? So we're working directly with the billing team if we're only doing credentialing for them, or with their credentialing team if we're only doing billing, all of that good kind of stuff. We typically identify that things aren't working through our staff. They have boots on the ground, they are doing the daily processes. And so when they come to us and they say, can we do something that will reduce the number of meetings that we're going to have? Or can we do something that will make this more comprehensive? So instead of sending, one application to 400 payers, how do we do it all this at the same time? These type of things. It's typically our great staff that are identifying and bringing them to us. And at that point, our leadership will take a look, see, what we think, how we feel, again, in line with what we already know are the client's goals, because we're always here to elevate them. And if there
That's
is
a
something
nice
that,
word, how to elevate clients' goals. I like it.
yes, they're always going to be successful, right? I never have
Right.
any doubt in their success with or without me. So I really feel like we're here to just elevate it,
Correct.
and
This is
consistently help
fantastic.
them do
Yes.
better.
This is
So
fantastic.
that.
So when you see that somebody is bottlenecking that elevation process,
Mhm.
that's where, and you could see it. You could, because you have been doing that, and you see the fabric of that trust is broken somewhere because the person who was working with you is no longer there, and the new team has come into the place. So establish that fabric back. What are the ways? How do you guys handle that situation? Because that is a very, very a thin situation, very critical situation. It's a thin fabric.
Right. So typically, what we tend to do are what we call introductory calls.
Hmm.
So if one of our clients is bringing on new staff, or if we are bringing on new staff to
To
work on
them,
their
yeah, it may
account,
happen both sides.
you know,
Yes.
right? We definitely do an introductory call, and within that call, we establish the new essentially responsibilities of each party, because you're right, maybe they had someone and they were our point of contact for 10 years. We're very comfortable.
Hmm.
That point of contact went above and beyond and did things that maybe were outside of their scope of work that
Yeah.
this new person is no longer responsible for. So we typically identify those early on, to ensure that anything that our previous person would do for us, that this person is now also going to do. And if they aren't, what's the next step there? Is there another person? Are we now expected to do it? That type of thing. So we try to be proactive as much as we possibly can with these conversations, and what the expectations are of us, what our expectations are of them, and what can fall through the cracks if either side is not meeting those expectations. I'm extremely clear on that portion because, as you know, I am more focused on the credentialing and contracting side.
Correct.
I have a great team of billers. I don't want to be a biller, so I am so happy for them.
So
But
how do
it's
you,
all in the
right? So
details.
so how do you pass on your trust on your team? And then you introduce a person, and then you said, hey, he's a trusted guy, he's a very trusted employee. I've been working with this person for a long time, and I'm passing my roles, my responsibility through this person to your company. Or the same way, like, hey, you are new, we want to work together, and you try it, and then after a month you see that is not happening, and then you try again and it's not happening, and then you communicate clearly that, hey, something is broken somewhere. What do you do when that is broken at that time?
So in those moments, we typically come back to presenting the solutions. So when we're identifying these type of problems, and we may have even had a conversation, or it seemed like we were all on the same page and we're moving forward, but something is off. We'll obviously identify that. And, sometimes that's a lack of communication. We aren't receiving something that we absolutely need in order to move forward. And in those cases is, again, typically when we'll pull in the actual client, the owner of our contract, and say, listen, these are the steps that we've already taken. This is what our outcome was supposed to be at this point, and it doesn't seem like we're hitting the mark. Let's have another conversation. Do we need to change this? Is something in this process not working for you all, and we can just change it, or is it just not getting done? We don't know, right? Because they are our employees; they're our clients' employees. So
Right.
we hope all of our clients have wonderful employees, and most of them do. But we have
Right.
all had the one that wasn't quite up to par.
Right.
So at that point, it gives them the opportunity to investigate, their own staff and ask them how they're feeling about the operations and bring them into the conversation so that we can create a solution. Sometimes even doing that still doesn't quite get it across the finish line. And in those cases is when I frankly typically become much more blunt.
Uh-huh.
And if we don't receive this, if we don't have this from you, these are the consequences of it. This is going to be the last time that I'm going to ask, because at this point, I'm assuming it's not a priority for you. But if it is, please get back to me right away. At that point, the ball is in their court, and at the end of the day, it is their business. And again,
Right.
we're here to help them as much as we possibly can. But at the end of the day, it's their decision.
It becomes very difficult because what happens, you use all of your resources, you use all of your wisdom, which you
Yes.
accumulated for over a period of time. You want to sincerely help the client because you see the opportunity, you see the success happening, you see money is flowing in, you see the efforts which you have put is just flourishing, it's generating results, and suddenly it is halted because one person wants the things in his own way. And then I'll give you an example. Let's say if you have a 5,000 claim sitting to be reviewed, and you say, "Hey, I have a team. We are a medical billing company. It is our job." But that person say, "No, no, no. I want to do it to make sure that everything goes from my table. I want to, literally approve each claim." And that is taking that person forever. And by the time the claim gets timely filing limit, it gets over. And he is not realizing that because he has something going on in his mind that his employees are working on it, they have their own process. And since he is not able to kind of correspond or correlate with that process and understand the consequences, he would continue to support those employees because he would think that this is how this needs to be done because he has never done it by himself.
Right.
It's totally a
So,
disconnect.
right. So in cases like that, I am very data driven, because, like you said, sometimes it's just hard for them to connect why it would be an issue, even when to us it's very cut and dry. Especially providers, they went to school to provide health services, not to do all this admin business stuff, and we fully
Correct.
recognize that. And so we do try to explain as much as we possibly can, again, up front. When those type of things happen, we tend to give them an analysis of, here's where you're at right now. Here's where you would have been if we had been following a better process. And if you
So you should,
still
no
want
matter
your,
what happens, you should always wear a subcontractor hat. You should do the justice with the business, not
yes,
with an individual. That's what you
yes,
think.
that
We
is how
should
I
always.
feel. And again, this is escalated at this point. If we've talked to whoever the point of contact is, and we're on the same page and we're working it out together, a lot of times we can do it with that. What works for you? Okay, we'll move this around. This works for us. Can you scratch our back a little bit too? Most of the time, these type of things can be resolved with your normal point of contact.
Correct. Correct.
Um, so once it's escalated to the point of nothing's really moving, we're identifying these issues, we've informed your office manager, whoever it may be, of these issues, it doesn't seem to be getting anywhere. At that point, I feel like it's our responsibility to make sure that the actual business owner at that point is aware of what's going on. Again, put the ball back into their court so they can decide what they want to do. If they want their internal team to approve every single claim, we can't stop that. What we can suggest is that you need a larger team then. You need to hire more
Correct.
internal people. And that doesn't really
Correct. The
make sense
bottleneck you have, you
because you've
probably have
already
to
hired us
open
to do
it
that
up a little
job.
bit.
Right. So I tend to present options, and the majority of the time, the options that would also solve their issue, but are not just essentially what I would like to do, are typically more expensive for them. And like in that case, in order for that to actually work, they would definitely need a bigger team. Obviously, that one person isn't able
Like,
to handle the amount. Do you
right, you
want to
remember
hire
in
three
our
or four and
HBMA,
manage them? Yeah.
yeah. You remember at HBMA, I spoke to one of the gentlemen who was a speaker, and he's a very senior person at HBMA. Everybody knows him. And his answer was, sometimes as a billing company or as a healthcare management company, your client may need a hybrid solution. And I like that idea. He said, you have to suggest to your client that, a hybrid solution may work where you can control some of his internal employees and you can control some of his internal processes and tell them that, hey, we will take up the process which your internal team is not able to understand or do it the way we want to do it. So
Mhm.
if he's open to have us a hybrid team where we can deploy some manpower at his side and we can keep some manpower at our side and we can do like a hybrid solution. What do you think about those scenarios?
I think that's a great idea for anyone that is willing to give up the management of it, which I feel like most people are once that trust is built. This is their livelihood, and I know as a business owner myself that it is sometimes hard to let go and
Yeah,
delegate things out, and especially at times to vendors because, well, you're a vendor. You're not in my office every day. I'm not going to your kids' baseball games and that kind of stuff. It's a little bit more disconnected,
correct.
typically, which is why we try to have such an open line of communication. Um, it's a remote world, right? Nowadays. Uh, Sorry, I got lost in myself.
Yeah.
So
No,
we
this is fantastic. So I tell you, well, this is fantastic. I think we are already 27, 28 minutes. Do you want to summarize the whole thing in last 1 minute, or pretty much you have opened up all of your thoughts at this moment?
I think I've pretty much told you everything, but I would just say in
Tell us a little
general,
bit
when
about yourself before we leave. Tell us a little bit about your company, yourself, and where do you live? What do you do? Just tell us a little bit about it.
my name is Victoria Williams. I am a partner at Red House Credentialing, which is, for lack of better words, an affiliate of Red House Medical Billing. We are primarily based out of Michigan, but we have hubs in Phoenix, St. Louis, which is where I am based, and Boston as well. We work nationwide, and we do everything from full RCM services to full credentialing and payer enrollment services. So we really are trying to bring everything under one roof for everyone because it's much easier to have one point of contact than multiple companies. We started this. My partner Brittany and I um, started at the beginning of COVID. We were laid off and decided to take the plunge. And then
Wow, you were laid off and then you decided to take your own company. That's great.
we did. We were laid off, and we each took $50 and started a bank account. And then
We
about a
should
year later,
we should have a
the
one
partnership
session
began.
on my Friday show where I talk about healthcare entrepreneurship, and we need to have that one session at some point.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'd be thrilled to join. So we're really excited now to be part of Red House, and we're just continuing our growth and hoping to continue to help elevate our clients.
I like that word. So with this, thank you very much, Victoria. I'll see you in the next session.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. So this was Victoria, guys. We had a great time last 30 minutes. I hope you got the message. Message was very clear. As a subcontractor or a vendor, you always have to uh, make decisions in the interest of your client's business process. That means the success of your client's business process is most important to you. Yes, individual listening to their individual employees and try to work with them in cohesive manner is extremely, extremely required. It's good, it's important. But at the same time, end of the day, the client will stay with you as long as he would have a trust and understanding of your processes and how you are impacting their bottom line. So, as Victoria said, elevation of the client's expectations is very important, and that can only come with a positive outcomes. So, on this note, I'll see you in the next session, sometimes next week. With this, have a great Thursday. Have a fantastic day ahead. Thank you, entrepreneurs.